Day 1. My journal. It's been a while. 2 years, 3 months, and 6 days to be exact. I stopped writing the day the doctor told us the 4th round of IVF had failed. He had used the word unviable, a word so clinical and cold it felt like a slap. I remember the drive home, Liam's hand gripping mine so tightly his knuckles were white, the silence in the car so loud it was a physical pressure against my eardrums. That was the day I packed away my hopes, folded them neatly like old baby clothes, and stored them in a box in the attic of my heart. I locked it and threw away the key. I told Liam I couldn't do it anymore. The appointments, the injections that left constellations of bruises across my stomach, the relentless, crushing cycle of hope and despair. It was breaking me. It was breaking us, he agreed. He held my face in his hands, his own eyes glistening, and told me that all he ever really wanted was me. He said we would heal. We would find a new way to be happy. So we did, or we tried. We took trips. We renovated the kitchen. We poured ourselves into our careers. We built a life that was full, but I could always feel the empty space at its center. A ghost in the nursery we never painted. Tonight is our 10th anniversary. Liam has been acting strange all week. Secretive phone calls he takes in the other room, a nervous energy humming around him that reminds me of when he was about to propose. I tried to feel excited, but a part of me, the part that learned not to hope, just felt a low, familiar thrum of anxiety. I braced myself for a grand, romantic gesture, a trip to Paris, a diamond necklace, something to paper over the cracks, something to distract us from the one gift we could never give each other. I was in the living room when he came home. He asked me to close my eyes. I heard him move around, the soft shuffle of his shoes on the hardwood floor, a faint, sweet smell I couldn't place. Milk, it smelled like warm milk and baby powder. He told me to open my eyes, and there he was, standing in the middle of our living room, the one we so carefully designed to be an adult oasis, free of sharp corners and breakable things. And in his arms, bundled in a soft, cream-colored blanket, was a baby. A baby. My breath left my body in a single, silent gasp. The world tilted on its axis. My heart, that tired, scarred muscle, gave a painful lurch. It was a girl. Tiny, perfect, with a dusting of dark hair on her head and a face so serene she looked like a porcelain doll. Liam was crying, silent tears tracking down his face, his smile trembling. He told me her name was Hope. He explained it in a rush, his words tumbling over each other. He told me he knew I couldn't take another disappointment. He knew I needed to be protected from the process, so he did it himself. He told me he contacted the last-ditch surrogacy agency we had briefly looked into, the one in California. He said he used the last of our frozen embryos, the 2 we had left, the ones I couldn't bear to even think about. He said he handled everything, paid for everything, shielding me from every phone call, every appointment, every possibility of failure. He wanted it to be a surprise. He wanted to just hand me our daughter. He wanted to finally give me the one thing I wanted most in the world. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare at the tiny, sleeping face in his arms. My daughter, our daughter. A wave of something so powerful, so primal, it felt like it was rearranging my DNA washed over me. It was love. A ferocious, blinding, all-consuming love. I reached out, my hands shaking, and Liam gently placed her in my arms. She was so light, yet she felt like the anchor I had been missing my whole life. She stirred, her little mouth making sucking motions in her sleep. I brought her close, burying my face in the soft blanket, and inhaled that sweet, milky scent. And for the first time in years, I cried. Not tears of grief or frustration, but tears of pure, unadulterated joy. A joy so profound it hurt. Liam wrapped his arms around both of us, and we stood there in the middle of our living room, a family. Finally, a whole, complete family. My journal, it seems, has a new purpose now. It's no longer a catalog of pain, it's a record of hope. Day 5. The last 4 days have been a blur. A beautiful, chaotic, sleep-deprived haze. I feel like I'm seeing the world in color for the first time. The sunlight streaming through the window seems brighter. The coffee tastes richer. Every single thing is new. Hope's tiny yawns, the way her fingers curl around mine with surprising strength, the little gurgling sounds she makes after she eats. I spend hours just watching her breathe. Each rise and fall of her tiny chest is a miracle, a testament. Liam was right. This was the only way it could have happened. If I had known, I would have worried every second of the 9 months away. I would have been convinced something would go wrong. This way, I was spared all the anxiety and given all the joy. He is the most incredible man. I watch him with her, how he cradles her head so carefully, how he whispers nonsense to her until she smiles a tiny, gas-powered smile, and my heart feels like it could burst. He gave me the world. He gave me my hope. Today, my mother called. She was ecstatic, of course, crying on the phone, asking a million questions a minute. When is she coming to visit? Does the baby look more like me or Liam? It was wonderful. But then she asked the one question that made a little stone drop into the pit of my stomach. She asked about my sister, Maya. She asked if I had told her yet. The joy that had been bubbling inside me fizzled, just for a second. Maya, my younger sister. We haven't spoken in almost 3 years. Not since she told me, a week after my third IVF failed, that maybe my infertility was a sign from the universe. That maybe I just wasn't meant to be a mother. She said it so casually, as if she were commenting on the weather, sitting there in our parents' kitchen with her perfect life, her easy smile. The words were a knife, and she twisted it without even seeming to notice. I saw red. I told her things I can't even write down, things that were cruel and born of a pain so deep it had turned toxic. We haven't had a real conversation since. I told my mother I hadn't gotten around to it yet. A lie. The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Why would I share the greatest joy of my life with the one person who seemed to revel in my greatest pain? My mother sighed, that long-suffering sound she makes, and said that maybe a new baby was just the thing to heal our family. To bring us all back together. I changed the subject. Later, while I was rocking Hope to sleep, I thought about it. I looked down at this perfect little girl, my daughter, and felt a pang of something ugly. Guilt? No, not guilt. A possessiveness. A fierce, animal need to protect her, not just from scraped knees and bad dreams, but from people like Maya. From casual cruelty dressed up as cosmic wisdom. I will not let that poison touch my daughter. She is mine, ours. She is everything, and she deserves to be surrounded only by a love as pure and complete as she is. Day 14. 2 weeks of motherhood. It's harder than I ever imagined, and more wonderful than I ever dared to dream. The nights are long, a cycle of feeding and changing and rocking, but when Hope finally settles on my chest, her little body warm and heavy with sleep, her soft breath on my neck, the exhaustion just melts away. It's replaced by a peace so deep it feels ancient. Liam is a rock. He takes the late-night shifts, he does the grocery runs, he makes sure I eat, but I've noticed something. He's still secretive. I'll ask a simple question about the surrogate. What was her name? Did he ever meet her in person? What did the agency say when the pregnancy was confirmed? And he gets this vague, closed-off look in his eyes. He'll say her name was Jennifer, but then a day later he'll slip and call her Jessica. He says he only ever dealt with the agency director, a Mr. Harris, to keep it anonymous and professional. He says all the details are in a folder somewhere, and he'll dig it out for me when he has a second. But he never does. Last night, I was feeding Hope around 3 in the morning. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Liam's phone, which he'd left on the nightstand, buzzed. A text message. I glanced over, not meaning to pry, but the screen lit up with the preview. It just said, "Is she okay?" My blood ran cold. It wasn't a name I recognized. Just a string of numbers. Who would be texting at 3 in the morning to ask if my baby is okay? The agency? It seemed too informal, too personal. A hot, sharp spike of adrenaline shot through me. The old, familiar paranoia, the one I thought I'd packed away, crept back in. I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was probably just a wrong number. A friend of his who works odd hours, but the feeling lingered. A tiny crack in the perfect facade of my new life. When Liam woke up, I casually mentioned the text. I watched his face carefully. For a split second, I saw it, panic. A flicker of sheer, unadulterated fear in his eyes before he smoothed it over with a tired smile. He told me it was just a colleague from the West Coast office, asking about a project deadline. He picked up his phone, typed a quick reply, and then changed the subject, asking if Hope's rash was looking any better. The explanation was plausible, perfectly reasonable, but I saw that flicker. And it's the image of his eyes, wide and terrified for just an instant, that I can't get out of my head. It felt like watching a stranger look out from behind my husband's face. Day 22. I am living in a dream. A perfect, beautiful dream. I say this to myself every morning. I repeat it like a mantra. I look at my daughter, laughing her first real laugh, and I feel a wave of love that should drown out everything else. But it doesn't. Not completely. There's an undercurrent, a quiet, insistent hum of wrongness. Liam is getting better at hiding it. His answers are quicker now, more polished. When I asked again about the surrogacy paperwork, he patted my hand and told me he had it all in a safe deposit box at the bank. For security. He said the final legal papers from the agency wouldn't be processed for a few more weeks, and he didn't want to overwhelm me with boring legal documents when I should be focused on the baby. It all sounds so logical, so considerate. He's just protecting me. That's what he does. But the little things keep piling up, like pebbles in my shoe, annoying at first, then painful. He took a call yesterday and walked out onto the back porch, closing the sliding glass door behind him. I saw him through the glass, pacing back and forth, running a hand through his hair. He looked stressed, agitated. When he came back inside, he said it was just his boss putting pressure on him about a new account. But when he kissed me, his lips were cold, and I could smell cigarettes on his breath. Liam quit smoking 5 years ago. I didn't say anything. What would I say? That I don't believe him? Accusing him feels like a betrayal in itself. He gave me hope. He orchestrated this miracle for me. To doubt him is to taint the gift. It feels monstrous. Ungrateful, so I push it down. I focus on the good, on Hope's weight in my arms, on the way her eyes, a deep, startling blue, follow me around the room. Liam's eyes are brown, mine are green. The doctor told us genetics are a lottery, that recessive genes can pop up unexpectedly. I know this. It's simple science. But every time I look into her beautiful blue eyes, a tiny, traitorous voice in the back of my mind whispers, whose eyes are those? I'm starting to feel like I'm going crazy. I'm sleep-deprived, hormonal. My whole world has been turned upside down. It's only natural that I'd feel anxious, that my mind would play tricks on me. That has to be it. Because the alternative is too terrifying to even contemplate. Day 35. Something happened today, something that I can't explain away. I can't dismiss it as hormones or sleep deprivation. It's the end of the month, so I was online, paying our bills. We have a joint checking account for all the household expenses. I was just going through the statement, making sure everything looked right. The mortgage, the car payment, the shocking amount of money we now spend on diapers. And then I saw it, a series of payments. Large ones, $5,000, sent every month for the last 10 months. Sent via payment app, one of those ones that are supposed to be for splitting dinner with friends. The description on each one was the same: monthly support. My heart started hammering against my ribs. This had to be it. The payments to the surrogate. A sense of relief washed over me, so potent it made me dizzy. Here was the proof. The tangible evidence that this was all real. Liam wasn't lying. But then I looked at the recipient's name. It wasn't an agency. It wasn't a Jennifer or a Jessica. It was a name I knew. A name I hadn't let myself think about in years. A name that felt like acid on my tongue. M. Holloway, Maya. My sister's name is Maya Holloway. It couldn't be. It was a coincidence. There must be millions of people with that initial and last name in the United States. It had to be a mistake. A different M. Holloway. A Mary Holloway. A Margaret Holloway. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. I clicked on the transaction details, my breath caught in my throat. The payment app account was linked to a phone number. With trembling fingers, I typed the number into my own phone's contact list to see if a name would pop up. It did. Maya. The world stopped. The air in the room grew thick and heavy, impossible to breathe. I stared at the screen, at my sister's name next to a 10-month history of $5,000 payments from my husband, and my entire universe. The one I had so carefully, so joyfully rebuilt over the last month, shattered into a million pieces. I thought back, 10 months ago. That would have been right after our anniversary last year. Right after we had the terrible fight where I told him I couldn't live in this half-life anymore, this childless limbo. I had screamed at him that I felt like a failure, a broken woman. He had held me while I sobbed, telling me he would do anything to fix it. Maya. He went to Maya. The timing of her disappearance from my life suddenly clicked into place. I hadn't spoken to her in 3 years, but my mom would give me updates. Around 9 months ago, my mom mentioned that Maya had moved away for a while. She'd said Maya got a temporary job offer in Portland, a great opportunity she couldn't pass up. My mom had complained that she was being so secretive, that she never turned on her camera during their video calls, that her excuses for not visiting were always flimsy. At the time, I had felt a bitter sort of satisfaction. Good. Let her be the distant, difficult daughter for a change. Now, the reason for her secrecy was horribly, sickeningly clear. She wasn't in Portland for a job. She was hiding. She was pregnant with my husband's child. I looked over at the bassinet where Hope was sleeping peacefully, her little chest rising and falling. My Hope, my miracle. A cold, horrifying dread began to seep into my bones, so profound it felt like death. I crept closer, my legs unsteady. I looked at her face, her perfect, tiny features. I had been so blinded by joy, so desperate to believe, that I hadn't let myself see it. But now, with the poison of knowledge in my veins, it was unmistakable. It wasn't just a random genetic lottery. She has Maya's eyes, that startling, deep shade of blue. The same eyes that looked at me with such pity and condescension in my parents' kitchen 3 years ago. The same eyes that belonged to the girl who stole my favorite sweater in high school, who dated the boy I had a crush on, who always seemed to get everything I ever wanted. And now she had this. She and my husband, they had created a child behind my back. They had colluded in the most intimate, profound way two people can. They made a baby. And then he took the baby from her and gave her to me. A present, a surprise, a lie wrapped in a blanket. I am raising the biological child of my husband and my sister. The thought is a physical blow. It knocks the air from my lungs. I feel a scream building in my chest, a primal, animal sound of pure agony. I clapped a hand over my mouth to hold it in, terrified of waking her. Waking them, this perfect baby, this perfect lie. Liam will be home in an hour. He will walk through the door with a smile on his face, ask about my day, and lean down to kiss his daughter. Our daughter, my husband's daughter, my sister's daughter. I feel trapped. I am in a house built on a foundation of deceit, and the walls are closing in. I love this child with every broken fiber of my being. She is innocent. She is blameless. She is my daughter in every way that matters. But I am living a lie. Every lullaby I sing, every diaper I change, every kiss I place on her soft head is part of the charade. What do I do? How do I even breathe? He will walk through that door, and I will have to look at him. I will have to look at the man I love, the man who gave me my greatest joy, and know that he is also the architect of my deepest, most soul-crushing betrayal. He didn't just have an affair. He had a baby with my sister. And he gave her to me. He made me her mother. What kind of monster does that? What kind of love is that? Day 35. The sound of his key in the lock, it's a sound I used to love. The click and tumble of the latch that meant he was home, that my partner, my other half, was back. Tonight, it sounded like the locking of a cell door. He walked in, shrugging off his coat, a tired smile on his face. The same smile he wore every night. It looked grotesque now, a mask. He asked how my day was. He asked if Hope had been fussy. I couldn't speak. The words were lodged in my throat, a hard, painful lump. I just stood there by the kitchen island, the laptop screen still glowing with the bank statement. With her name, he saw my face. The smile faltered. He asked me what was wrong. His voice was filled with a soft, feigned concern that made my skin crawl. I just turned the laptop toward him. I watched him as he read it. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. The color drained from his face. The denial, the confusion, the dawning, horrific realization that he had been caught. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked from the screen to me, to the bassinet where Hope was sleeping, and back to me. In his eyes, I saw the truth of it all, the whole, ugly, unforgivable truth. And then he started talking. The words came out in a torrent, a desperate, pathetic flood of justification. He told me he did it for me, for us. He painted a picture of his desperation, of watching me crumble after each failed treatment. He said he couldn't stand to see me in that pain anymore. He said he was going crazy, feeling so helpless. He swore there was nothing between them, nothing emotional. He swore it. He said he went to Maya because she was family, because he thought, in some twisted, insane way, that it would keep the baby in the family. He said he offered her the money, a life-changing amount for her, to pay off her student debt, to give her a fresh start. He called it an agreement, a contract. He used clinical, sterile words to describe the act of creating a human life with my sister. He told me she agreed. She took the money. She moved to a rental apartment an hour away, not Portland, and lived in anonymity for 9 months. He handled everything. He said she signed away all her parental rights the day after the birth. He told me she handed the baby over in a hospital parking lot, took the final payment, and walked away. He described it as a transaction, a business deal, as if he had commissioned a piece of art, not conceived a child. He kept saying he did it to protect me from the process, from the potential for more heartbreak. He wanted to walk through the door and hand me a finished, perfect miracle. He actually thought he was being noble. He thought this was some grand, heroic gesture of love. I finally found my voice. It didn't sound like my own. It was a low, guttural whisper. I asked him if he was there. For the insemination. I had to know. He flinched. And then he nodded, a barely perceptible movement. He said it was at a clinic, impersonal, medical. He didn't seem to understand. The clinical setting didn't matter. He and my sister. They went to a clinic together to create a baby. His sperm. Her egg, a child that was biologically theirs and theirs alone. He looked at me, his eyes pleading, tears now streaming down his face, and he asked me not to let this ruin it. Not to let this ruin us. He gestured toward the bassinet. He said, "Look at her, Laura, look at Hope. Does it matter how she got here? She's here, she's ours." Ours, the word was a lie. And in that moment, looking at the man I had loved for more than a decade, I felt nothing. Not love, not even hatred. Just a vast, cold, empty space. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had erased me from my own story. He made me a stranger in my own life, a nanny raising my husband's child with my sister. He didn't give me a gift. He gave me a ghost, a living, breathing symbol of his ultimate deceit. I told him to get out, to go to a hotel. He tried to argue, to touch me, but I recoiled as if from a fire. The scream that had been building in my chest for hours finally broke free. A raw, ragged sound of pure agony. It woke the baby. She started to cry. And the sound of her cries was the only thing that mattered. I went to her, picked her up, and held her close, turning my back on him. I stood there, rocking my daughter, my sister's daughter, and listened as my husband, the father of my child, packed a bag and walked out of my life. The click of the door closing behind him was the loudest sound I had ever heard. Day 42. A week. He's been gone for a week. The silence in this house is a living thing. It breathes in the empty space next to me in bed. It sits in his chair at the dinner table. He texts me, dozens of times a day, pleading, begging, explaining, long paragraphs of how sorry he is, how he knows he broke my trust, but that he did it from a place of love. A broken, misguided love. I don't respond. What is there to say? I feel hollowed out. I'm moving through my days on autopilot. Feed hope, change hope, bathe hope, rock hope. Her needs are the only things that are real. The only things that ground me to this earth. When I look at her, my heart breaks and swells all at the same time. I love her. God, I love her so fiercely it physically hurts. She is the sun. She is innocent and perfect. But now, when I look into her deep blue eyes, I see my sister's face. When she smiles in her sleep, I see a shadow of Liam's smile. She is a beautiful, walking, breathing collage of my two greatest heartbreaks. How do I do this? How do I separate the child from the sin? My mother has called a few times. She wants to know why Liam is staying at a hotel. I told her we had a fight, a bad one. I told her we just need some space. She is worried, of course. She offered to come stay with me, but I told her no. I can't have her here. I can't look at my mother's face and lie. I can't pretend to be the grieving wife when I feel like a victim of a crime so personal, so twisted, there's no name for it. Today, a package arrived. A small box from a high-end baby boutique downtown. There was no card inside, just a silver rattle, exquisitely crafted. It was engraved with a single word, hope. I knew instantly who it was from. My stomach turned. I felt a surge of rage so hot it made my vision blur. Liam must have given her my address, or maybe she had it all along. The rattle sits on the kitchen counter, glinting under the lights. It feels like a trophy. A taunt, a reminder from her, from the woman who sold her own child, from my sister. I imagine her hands holding this rattle in the store. Her, thinking of my baby, her baby. The thought makes me want to be sick. This isn't just a gift. It's an intrusion, a claim, a message that she isn't just going to disappear. Day 50. The rattle is in the trash. I couldn't stand looking at it for another second. It felt like it was mocking me. Liam called, and I actually answered. He sounded relieved, hopeful. He asked if we could talk. I told him about the rattle. His voice tensed up. He told me it was part of their agreement, that Maya was allowed to send one gift. He said it was a way for her to have some closure. Closure. The word is an insult. There is no closure. This is a wound that will never, ever close. He tried to defend her. He said she was in a bad place, that she was desperate. He told me I didn't know the whole story of her life, her debts, her struggles. As if any of that could excuse this. As if any amount of money could justify selling your own flesh and blood. Selling her to your own sister's husband. I've been staring at my phone all night. At her contact name, Maya. It feels like a curse word. I have to talk to her. I can't live in this void of unanswered questions. Liam's version of the story is self-serving, designed to make him the tragic hero. I need to hear it from her. I need to hear the voice of the woman who did this to me. I need to understand how. Why? My fingers tremble as I type out the text. I delete it a dozen times. How could you? You've destroyed my life. You are a monster. None of it is right. None of it is enough. In the end, I just type 4 words. The 4 words that will change everything again. We need to talk. I press send. The delivered notification appears under the message. And I wait. Every second feels like an hour. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. I am terrified of her response and even more terrified of her silence. Day 51. She called. I was half asleep on the couch, hope sleeping on my chest when my phone vibrated. Her name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I just stared at it, my blood turning to ice. Then I answered. I carried the phone to the back porch, my hand shaking. Her voice. It was the same, but different, thinner, brittle. She asked what I wanted. I asked her why. At first, she gave me the same story Liam did. The money, the debt, the opportunity. She spoke in a flat, rehearsed-sounding monotone, as if she were reciting a legal deposition. She said it was a purely logical decision, a transaction. She said she knew how much I wanted a baby, and she saw a way to solve her own problems while helping me. Helping me. The audacity of that word nearly made me choke. I didn't let her off that easy. I pushed. I asked her how she could look at herself in the mirror. I asked her what it felt like to carry a child for 9 months knowing she was going to sell her. I could hear her composure cracking over the phone line. I heard a shaky breath. And then she said the words that I will never forget. She said, "You think this was easy? You think I just walked away and didn't feel anything?" Her voice broke. For the first time, I heard a flicker of real emotion. Not remorse, something else. Resentment. I'm the one who went through it all. The hormones, the morning sickness, the labor. You just got handed a perfect baby at the end. You have no idea what it was like. The line went silent for a moment. And then she delivered the final blow. She asked if she could see her. She said she didn't want to be her mother. She knew she gave that up. But she just wanted to see her. Maybe once a year, on her birthday. She said she had a right. A right. My entire body went rigid with a rage so pure, so cold, it was almost calm. She has no rights. She sold her rights for $5,000 a month. She traded them for a down payment on a new life. This baby is not a car she can ask to borrow for the weekend. This is my daughter. Mine. Forged in my sleepless nights, baptized in my tears, loved with the heart that she and my husband shattered. I told her that if she ever came near me, or near my daughter, I would get a restraining order. I told her that as far as the world was concerned, she didn't exist. She was a nameless, faceless surrogate in California. I would make sure everyone, including our parents, knew it that way. I told her to lose my number. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But underneath the rage, there was a new feeling beginning to surface. A terrifying, steely resolve. He may have created this situation. They may have colluded to build this prison around me, but I am the one holding the key. And the key is hope. Day 60. Liam came to the house, unannounced. He must have spoken to Maya. He was furious. He said I was destabilizing the situation. He used that word again. He said he had a carefully constructed agreement to protect everyone, and I had just blown it up. To protect everyone? Or to protect himself? To keep his perfect, horrible secret buried? He told me I was being selfish. That Maya was hurting, and I was making it worse. I just laughed. A bitter, ugly sound. I asked him when he became so concerned with my sister's feelings. I asked him if he was concerned about her feelings when he was meeting her in secret, when he was writing the checks, when he stood by her in a clinic while she was inseminated with his child. He had no answer. He just stood there looking defeated. He tried to tell me he loved me. The words felt like sand in my mouth. I realize now he doesn't know what love is. Love isn't this. Love isn't deceit and manipulation and control. Love doesn't build a cage and call it a home. He didn't do this for me. He did this for himself, to quiet his own desperation. to get the child he wanted, the family portrait he had in his mind. I was just a necessary prop. I told him to leave his key on the counter. He stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. He thought he could fix this. He thought that time, and the presence of this beautiful baby, would be enough to heal the wound he'd inflicted. He doesn't understand that he didn't just wound me. He carved out my heart and replaced it with a lie. You can't heal that. You can only learn to live with the scar. He left the key. The small, metallic clink it made on the granite countertop was a sound of finality, of freedom, day 80. It's been almost 3 months. 3 months since my life imploded. I look at myself in the mirror and I see a different woman. The soft edges are gone. There are new, hard lines around my eyes, but my gaze is steady. For the first time in a long time, I am not looking at a victim. I have been playing a part. The single mother, struggling but strong. My parents know Liam and I have separated. They think it's because the stress of a new baby finally broke us. They are sad but supportive. They drop off casseroles. They offer to babysit. They ask about Maya sometimes, wondering why she hasn't visited her new niece. I give them vague answers. I tell them she's busy with her new life. One day, they will have to know some version of the truth. But not today. Today is about me. And it is about hope. For weeks, I have felt trapped. But I realize now that was his narrative, his trap. I was so focused on the betrayal, on the past, that I couldn't see the future. My future, Hope's future. Motherhood is not about biology. It is not about a contract or an agreement. Motherhood was forged in my soul at 3 a.m, whispering lullabies to a screaming infant. It was earned in the endless hours of rocking and feeding. It was sealed with every ounce of love I have poured into this child. A love that is real. A love that is mine. She is my daughter. My blood does not flow in her veins, but my soul is tied to hers for eternity. I am her mother. It is the only truth that matters. I have packed our bags, just a few, enough for a new start. I have withdrawn half the money from our joint savings account. I earned it. I have found a small, furnished apartment for rent 3 states away. A place with no memories. A place where we can breathe. I am looking at my daughter, sleeping in her car seat, ready to go. She is so perfect. She deserves a life that isn't built on a rotten foundation. She deserves a mother who is whole, not one who is constantly looking over her shoulder. She deserves the truth. One day, I will tell her. A version of it that she can understand. I will tell her that she was born from a complicated story, but that her life is one of pure, unconditional love. My love. I have left a letter for Liam on the kitchen table. It's short. It just says that I am Hope's mother, and I will be making all the decisions for her from now on. He can contact me through a lawyer. I just sent one final text message to Maya. It says, I am raising my daughter now. Stay away from us, forever. I am turning off my phone. The house is dark. The car is packed. I take one last look at the home that was supposed to be my sanctuary and became my prison. I feel no sadness. Only a quiet, fierce determination. He thinks this story is his, that he wrote it, that he controlled all the characters. He's about to find out that I'm the one who gets to write the ending, and it starts now.